Sheriff embroiled in a battle over his budget and under investigation by the GBI has decided he has not had enough. Burke County Sheriff Alfonso Williams says he plans to run for re-election. It is a powerful position with little oversight, as the I-team uncovered when we started looking into two arrests, two men facing the same felony charges, connected to the same case, treated very differently once Sheriff Williams got involved.
And we're not just talking about their experience in jail, as our I-team's Meredith Anderson is about to show you. One of the men was arrested, but it appears the other man was unarrested.
Unarrested is the best word we could come up with here, even though you can't unarrest someone. That's not even possible. But that's exactly what it appears the sheriff of Burke County did in this case.
This is a tale of two men.
Turn around for me. I got a warrant for your arrest.
And their very similar arrests.
What's going on? You got a warrant for your arrest. A warrant for my arrest? Yes, sir.
Warrants accuse them of working together to cheat an elderly woman out of her house. We'll get to that in just a minute. But first, let's hit pause and fast forward to the end for a quick but important spoiler alert. Both men, Daniel Nunn and Gary Flakes Jr., are no longer facing any charges connected to this. The district attorney's office dismissed the warrants. But even when you are cleared of all charges, there's still a record of your arrest. For instance, here's Daniel Nunn's mugshot. Gary Flakes Jr. doesn't have a mugshot, though. In fact, the jail has no record of his arrest that night. But the I-team clearly has body cam video of him being arrested. So how did his arrest just disappear? The answer could expose how Burke County Sheriff Alfonso Williams controls who has an arrest record in Burke County and who doesn't. But back to the home of the 78-year-old. Even though she still lives here, it's technically not her house anymore.
I went for Gary Flakes.
Gary Flakes.
Can I call him?
No, just wait.
Gary Flakes Jr. owns Air Now, a heating and air company. Police believe he was at the house on a service call when he talked the elderly homeowner into renting one of her rooms to Daniel Nunn. Nunn is wearing an Air Now shirt when he's taken into custody.
This call will be recorded and subject to monitoring at any time.
Nunn's first call behind bars is to Flakes.
Hey, Gary.
Yeah.
This is about that house.
A house Flakes got for a deal. He bought it from an elderly woman whom an investigator notes suffers from dementia. Warrants say the price was less than $29,000 when fair market value was $71,000.
What the hell?
I don't know. Come and get me out of jail.
During that jail phone call, Nunn drops an important name for the first time.
Let me call Ponto and talk to him about it, yeah?
Alfonso, as in Burke County Sheriff Alfonso Williams, who had no jurisdiction over this case. Waynesboro police arrested Nunn.
I'm surprised they didn't come get me too.
3 days later, police did come for Flakes.
Where's the daddy at?
When he showed up at the scene of his son's car accident.
Transported. Check that out. Son to his mama.
His son did take a ride in that ambulance as a precaution. But first,
Mr. Gary Flakes. I got some business with you too. All right.
It doesn't look like it.
Come on up here, my car.
Like that.
his dad took a ride in a Waynesboro police car.
What's going on? You got a warrant for your arrest.
A warrant for my arrest?
Yes, sir.
Pop the door.
Go ahead and lay that up here. We got felony warrants on you.
Oh, my God.
Again, we want to make it very clear. These warrants have since been dismissed. But on this night, Daniel Nunn is still in jail. And we know from their phone call, Flakes probably isn't surprised he's about to head there too.
Yeah, I know what it's about.
Even Flakes' wife seemed to know this was coming.
He's got felony warrants for exploitation of a elderly.
I know. We've been dealing with this.
I understand.
And it's not even true. Not even true.
Oh, it's true.
Back in the police car, Gary Flakes Jr. says he's already gotten the Burke County Sheriff involved.
I've been talking to Alfonso and Lee, trying to get to the bottom of this bull. This bull. This is bull. Okay.
It's important to reiterate this case, like Nunn's, is a Waynesboro PD case. Sheriff Alfonso Williams has no jurisdiction.
Am I staying at the city tonight or the
No,
county?
you go to county. We don't have a jail.
Sheriff Williams does oversee the Burke County Detention Center, though, so it's possible Flakes thinks he could intervene.
Being route from the crash scene to the detention center with one in custody.
On the way to jail, Flakes continues to drop names.
See, I got a lawyer to try to get my buddy out of jail, right? And he talked to Rex Myers today.
Rex Myers is a former Burke County probate judge, seen here being sworn in on the Burke County Facebook page and the Burke County Sheriff's Office Facebook page. He now works for the District Attorney's Office. He's also in charge of jail intake.
1400 dispatch on scene, detention center.
The Waynesboro police officer's body cam keeps recording as he walks Gary Flakes Jr. into the Burke County Detention Center.
Right, this way, my man. Hey, what's going on?
And handles initial paperwork. The whole process is pretty quick because essentially all the Waynesboro officer does is drop Flakes off at the detention center.
It's bull. I'm just telling you, man. It's really bull.
Burke County jail employees should then take a mugshot and fingerprints. But when the Waynesboro officer left that night,
All right, y'all.
Gary Flakes Jr. was never booked into jail. The Waynesboro police officer investigating the case called the Burke County Detention Center the next day to question Flakes. She was told Flakes hasn't been booked there since 2006. The I-team also sent an open records request for everyone booked into jail during that time frame. We couldn't find a record of Flakes' arrest either. It's like the arrest never even happened. The I-team did find this email sent the day after Waynesboro police arrested Gary Flakes Jr. The investigating officer is asking for his booking information because she says Rex has inquired about the case. Again, that's Rex Myers, the former judge who now works for the DA's office, who Gary Flakes mentioned on his ride to jail. And then there's Burke County Sheriff Alfonso Williams.
Then you call Fonzo and talk to him about it, yeah?
I've been talking to Alfonso and Lee.
The I-team asked to sit down with Sheriff Williams. He told us he was not willing to sit down for an interview, but he did respond via email, and he did admit to letting Flakes go that night. As sheriff, I reserve the right to decide in many instances who is released from my jail. The police arrested a local and prominent businessman with a solid reputation who's been in this town for decades. We asked, "Are you saying prominent members of Burke County get special treatment?" He replied, "My intentions were nothing more than to allow him to deal with his son's emergency that night. Otherwise, I would not have been involved. To purport that one has to have certain status to get assistance from my office as sheriff is just asinine." However, it's not unusual for community members like Gary Flakes to give assistance to a sheriff running for office. The I-team found Flakes donated to Alfonso Williams' campaign. As for the home at the center of this, Flakes no longer owns it. Just 4 months after he bought it, he sold it to Eddie Taylor for only $50,000. Flakes doubled his investment, and Taylor also got the home for a deal at more than $20,000 under the fair market value. By the way, Eddie Taylor contributed thousands of dollars to Sheriff Williams' campaign. Who we couldn't find donated to the sheriff's campaign? Daniel Nunn, who sat in jail for 23 days. When asked about it, Sheriff Williams tells the I-team Nunn's arrest and jail stay are a travesty of justice. Yet he doesn't do the same for Nunn as he does for Flakes. Sheriff Williams tells the I-team he investigated this matter prior to the city police being involved and did not find sufficient probable cause for an arrest. Well, we sent an open records request for that investigation, but the sheriff then clarified it was a preliminary investigation and he just made a few calls. What he never gave us an answer about, though, is where a Georgia County sheriff is permitted to release a felony suspect after his or her arrest, but prior to his or her booking. And we asked 3 times in bold text that was highlighted in yellow and underlined. It's difficult to overlook, much like the differences in how one man was arrested,
I got a warrant for your arrest.
booked, photographed, and spent weeks in jail, while Burke County Sheriff Alfonso Williams allowed the co-defendant
What's going on?
You got a warrant for your arrest?
You warrant for my arrest?
Yes, sir.
to essentially walk in and walk out with no record beyond this body cam video that he was ever there that night at all.
An FBI agent told the I-Team the FBI is aware of these allegations. I did speak with Gary Flakes Jr., but he said his lawyer advised him not to talk. We were unable to reach Daniel Nunn. As for Eddie Taylor, documents show he first tried to evict the elderly woman after he bought her home. He is now suing her for back rent. He was scheduled to be in magistrate court tomorrow, but just late this afternoon, a judge agreed the case to be moved to Superior Court, where the woman will be represented by a guardian ad litem because of her, quote, diminished capacity. The I-Team will, of course, continue to follow this case very closely.